I often come across employers who use American Funds as their retirement plan services provider. And for this reason, I wanted to do a video explaining more about how American Funds operates, because this is the provider that seems to have more confusion about how they make money than any other provider that I've seen. It's mainly because of their fee structure, which is based on share classes. They have actually 6 different share classes if you include their old A share class that's not offered anymore. The share classes they offer now are 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But so few people actually know what a share class means. And the basic point of a share class is to determine how much compensation that the advisor is paid. The R2 share class, along with the R3 and R4, are for brokers, whereas the R5 and R6 share class are for registered investment advisors. The R2 share class has the most compensation built in to pay the broker, whereas it gets lower with R3 and even lower with R4. The R5 and R6 share classes have no compensation paid to an advisor. That's why those are the share classes that are much better for any plan sponsor to use, because it then forces the advisor to negotiate a separate fee with the employer that the employer actually has to agree on. American Funds also has multiple different platforms. The main 2 I see are the Plan Premier or the Record Keeper Direct platform. Under the Record Keeper Direct platform, you are forced to invest only in American Funds, because American Funds has its own proprietary funds, and there are no fees or no fees paid directly, because all of the fees that American Funds earned are paid through the management fees of the funds. And typically, when I see these plans, there's typically a broker involved that doesn't have a lot of knowledge or sophistication with 401k plans. The funds all stay the same, and the broker gets paid an automatic fee. Now, if it's the Record Keeper Direct platform in R2, that's 0.75% of the assets. That is an enormous amount of money to make, especially on larger plans. Or if it's a real small amount, there isn't much to make, but often these plans have several $100,000, if not millions of dollars, and there's usually very little work that the broker actually does. There's not really much fund monitoring to do, because you can only have a certain amount of funds, and it can only be the American funds. And yet the plan sponsor isn't writing a check, so they have no idea that these tens of thousands of dollars in charges are even coming out of the accounts. That's why it's so important to understand what a share class actually is. American Funds, on their other platform, where you can invest in other outside funds besides American Funds, and you can still have any share class you want, is actually a reasonable flat fee structure. So from that sense, along with the fact that American Funds has pretty good customer service, and they do let you have funds outside of just their own fund family, which pretty much any provider also does that has their own proprietary funds. They're not a terrible provider, but they're terribly misunderstood. The client that I have that uses American Funds has had a very good experience just working with their customer service team. They have good people that are working there, and you're not required to invest in their own funds. Now, in their other platform, not the Record Keeper Direct, but Plan Premier, or Plan Premier with a TPA, that TPA is a third-party administrator, you can have many different outside funds, but you are required, I believe, to continue to offer 60% of the funds being the American funds. Not everyone has to invest, or anyone has to invest in those funds, but 60% of the offering has to be American funds. At least that's how they've always done it, unless something has changed very recently. So in summary, if you want good customer service and you want a reasonably priced provider, this is not a bad provider to use. They also have a pretty good website, not so much on their Record Keeper Direct platform, but on their Plan Premier platform. But as I mentioned in other videos, you want to make sure to fully evaluate everything regarding the provider, from the fees to the website to the ability to offer any fund you want, to the flexibility in the fund offering. And I've mentioned Alliance Pension before. I believe they are really one of the better providers out there for the money because they're also a flat fee and they don't have any restrictions on the funds, along with employee fiduciary, which doesn't have quite as good service, and I've mentioned in other videos, but also is a flat fee and doesn't have any restrictions on the funds. But again, there are multiple factors involved, and I hope that everyone benefits from watching this video so they can do a more comprehensive and thorough retirement plan provider search.